So, Mickey,
Yeah.
what kind of American are you?
You know, we practiced that, but I don't know what to answer now.
Hello, guys. What is up? My name is Dylan. Welcome back to the Popcorn Podcast. I hope everyone's doing fantastic. Hello, Mickey.
Hey, bro.
Welcome back.
How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm struggling with hay fever at the moment. So,
Are you?
yeah, like you might be able to tell my voice isn't as it is usually.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a little bit musky. Do you suffer from hay fever this time?
You know what? I have been suffering from hay fever recently. No, I usually, all jokes aside, I usually have a horrendous hay fever, and it will come.
Yeah, it's good to be back.
It's good to be back. It's great to be back.
I see you've got some interesting merch on.
I'm representing
Guys, it's only been 2 minutes.
A24
This guy's
apparel,
scored,
baby.
like, twice. If you have been watching the channel recently, you will know that in the last episode, I sat down to talk about Kung Fu Panda 4 with Lola and Fontaine.
Yeah.
This one, not so much animation.
A little bit different.
Yeah, a little bit different. Not so much kids-friendly entertainment.
Well,
Would that be correct to say?
Yeah,
Hey,
of course. Yeah.
So, yeah, guys, we are going to be talking about the latest action political thriller coming to you from Alex Garland and A24, Civil War. No, that's not Captain America Civil War. That is just Civil War. We are going to be discussing the film. We're going to be breaking down the film, giving our thoughts on the film. But that's not all. You guys seem to have been really enjoying the sort of game segment that we've been introducing into the episodes and incorporating into those runtimes.
I'm breathing heavily because I'm afraid.
Are you nervous?
I'm
Are you
afraid
nervous?
of the game.
Yeah. So once we've done the breakdown, once we've gone through some Letterboxd reactions, we're going to get to
Off camera,
couple
Joe said that the thing I'm worst at in this life is accents, and you're gonna make me like just do all the accents.
There
in
are
the
no
world.
accent challenges.
I'm gonna be so.
So guys, as much as I would say I love the company of Mickey, I'd say there's a reason why I have called him up to do this particular episode. One could say Mickey is actually just quite the fan.
Well, because I'm the biggest Alex Garland fanboy.
You are indeed.
I am.
Well, at least the biggest one that I know.
I do love Garland.
Yeah, you're quite the expert.
Yeah,
Mr. Garland.
I actually have the A24 Ex-Machina screenplay book, which A24
You should have
represents.
bought it. You should have presented.
I thought about it, but it's way too valuable to just lug around all day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I went and saw Ex-Machina on IMAX recently. I rewatched Devs randomly. I love his stuff.
So yeah, that is exactly what I was going to ask you first. Is can you tell us a bit of your experience with Alex Garland, how he's inspired you as a filmmaker? What do you think of his previous work?
I mean, I watched Ex-Machina when it came out, and I fell in love with it. I've seen it. I genuinely would consider it like probably my favorite film of the 2010s.
Wow.
Honestly, like,
That's a big
I
save.
think it's brilliant, like masterful. It's the best debut in the modern day century, I think, honestly. In the modern day century, in the 21st century.
Some good English.
Annihilation I loved. And obviously at the time there was all of the drama that was happening behind the scenes, so I was tracking that very heavily.
What was the drama?
Basically,
Remind me.
it was a production company that was producing the film, but they didn't want to give Garland the final cut. So then he was like, well, you, I've got final cut. Maybe I'm wrong with this, but this is pretty sure what happened.
He went to Netflix.
And then he was like, I'm not going to release it if it's not the film I want. And then Netflix was like, we're going to buy it and release it however way you want it.
Yeah.
But there was no cinema release.
Yes. No, I remember because it went straight to streaming, right? So
And then Devs, I think, is like brilliant, really underrated. Have you seen Devs?
So I haven't seen Devs.
So Devs, I rewatched recently randomly. I swear it wasn't in prep for this or for Civil War. I just rewatched it randomly. And I never rewatch shows, but Devs is amazing. And now Civil War.
Well, you forgot a film.
Oh, Men, of course. Yeah, Men, Men. I do like Men. I think it's not, I do like it. It's not on par with the rest of his work, I think. But I do like Men. I think the idea behind Men is on par with all the other ideas. The execution is a little bit lacking for me, but I did like it. I'd still consider it a good film.
You don't know why I'm smiling? Why I'm smiling is because I feel like me and you are gonna clash this episode.
What do you mean?
I feel like me and you are just gonna clash, because I'm gonna come for your boy, man.
Yeah,
a little bit.
What,
A little
you
bit.
hate Men, right?
I mean, I don't hate it. Like, I'll give like a brief synopsis of what I think of Alex Garland. So I just want to start by saying that I haven't seen his earlier work when he was a writer.
Well,
so
28 Days Later.
I haven't seen
Sunshine.
28 Days.
I
Later.
mean, to be honest,
I haven't seen Sunshine.
a lot of people
Danny Boyle.
put that like with him, but those are not at all. I think because they're Danny Boyle, they're not at all like in his directorial style. Like, it's not. to me, when I watch like Sunshine or 28 Days Later, it does not
Yeah.
compare at all to like Ex-Machina or Annihilation.
Yeah, I haven't seen his work with Danny Boyle, but I have seen all of his directorial feature films. I haven't seen Devs, and I'm just going to say, I think just for all his sort of brilliance as a filmmaker, as a conceptual filmmaker, I do admittedly think his films have got progressively worse over time. I mean, I do very much prefer Civil War to Men.
I mean, to be honest, I agree. I would say, I wouldn't say they've gotten worse. I would say they've gotten less amazing, in my
So
opinion.
that's another way.
No, because you're going like, oh, they're starting from like 10 and dropping to like 3. But I would say it's like 10, 9, 8, 7 or whatever. But I think Ex Machina is like top tier. Annihilation is very good. Devs is very good. And I do think his last 2 films are, I personally didn't think were as good as his earlier filmography, but I think are still great films.
So I think Ex Machina, I'm in agreement with you. I think it is a brilliant film from start to finish. It is one of the best directorial debuts, like you said, of the modern era, for sure. I think it has a really interesting commentary on artificial intelligence, what makes us human. I think overall it's a brilliant film.
Yeah.
Annihilation, for me, I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
I really was taken aback by how sort of just eerie and spooky and weird it was, that kind of experience. But I think sort of narratively, it is a bit of a step down from Ex Machina. It's not quite as focused. But I still really enjoyed it. And I think it's weird and it's arty. I really appreciate it.
I do agree, yeah.
Men, in my opinion, I don't hate that film. I've only seen it the once, and I think sort of the first half of it kind of works as a horror film. In the second half, quite literally, Alex, this guy loses the plot. Like, I'm all for artistic expression, but respectfully,
the ending.
Nah, just
no. I
no,
think Men is like kind of the definition of his experimental film.
Yeah, it's like his vanity.
And I don't think that's like, is it a perfect film? Absolutely not. I think he would probably know that too, to be honest. But I think as a piece, I do like it. I really respect it because it's
like
doing
elements.
something that the others aren't. And I like where he's going with it, and I like most of it. But there are bits that I just think. I think it's a little bit chaotic, to be honest.
I'll be completely honest, yeah. Considering Alex Garland's previous work,
Yeah.
I wouldn't, if I saw Men and I didn't know it was directed by Alex Garland, I would not have attributed that film to Alex Garland. Because before, he seems to have an ethos that is so like focused on exploring these intricate...
Like sci-fi.
His sci-fi work is, I'm a big fan of.
Yeah.
Like, since he's stepped away from that,
Yeah.
I want him to go back to sci-fi. I think that's when he's really in his element. But I think like Men just really kind of rubbed me the wrong way a bit. Like I just don't think, I don't know, I don't really understand what he was trying to accomplish with that film. I'm still scratching my head over it. I just think that film is like a mess. I
mean, to be honest, I think he doesn't even. I don't know the dude. I don't think he needs to accomplish anything.
No, I don't think he does. But
you know, what's like Ari Aster accomplishing with Beau is Afraid?
No, of course.
You know what I mean?
Like I said, it is like the vanity project.
Yeah,
like, you know, I've done this, and this, and this.
Yeah.
But so now I'm gonna just whatever the
Basically, yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's just because whenever I've seen Alex Garland in like interviews and stuff, he seems like such a sincere guy. So I just wouldn't attribute that kind of work with him. Should we talk about Civil War?
We can
Let's talk about Civil War. Guys,
Let's do
we
it.
are going to be talking about Alex Garland's Civil War. So if you haven't seen the film, please go and check it out and come and return to this conversation at a later time because we are going to be talking spoilers. So yeah, without further ado, guys, I'm going to give like literally a one-sentence plot synopsis on this just to kick things off. So Civil War showcases a journey across a dystopian future America following a team of military-embedded journalists as they race against time to reach DC before rebel factions descend upon the White House. Okay. Do you want to go first?
I can go first, yeah. I mean, for me, I thoroughly enjoyed Civil War. I think it's a really solid, good film. I think because I am the biggest Alex Garland fanboy,
I have to acknowledge.
I walk into it expecting a lot. And comparing it to his old stuff, I would say I was quote unquote disappointed because I'm comparing it to Ex-Machina, Annihilation, Devs, which are like, for me, like 5-star films. So comparing it to that, I was disappointed. And I think there is so much hype around the film, a lot about the controversies, the political stuff around it. And I think on the positive side, I think it's a like really well executed narrative. I think the film does do what it wants with, you know, not lecturing or answering any questions, but just putting out the facts, is very apolitical, which is the weird thing is that it's getting controversy over it not being controversial, which is just bizarre. But I think it does everything the film wanted. I love the journalistic side of it. I loved the way that the story develops. I think for me, the reason I was quote unquote a little disappointed is because I think personally it doesn't hit me emotionally, that film. But that is also because I ask myself, like, why? Because it's not like the things it's talking about are not emotional or asked in an appropriate way. And I think the reason is because basically Civil War is A24's first, let's say, more commercial release, right? It's their biggest release. It's the first, it's their biggest opening weekend as well. 26 million in the US, I think. And it's their most expensive film that they produced. And it is in a lot of ways, it's like this new wave of blockbuster, right? So it's an expensive film, not quite to the budget of these massive blockbusters, but also not mid-budget. So it's a weird little blockbuster. So it is very consumable by average moviegoer. And I think the reason that it's getting a lot of reviews that are saying it's so emotional is because to that like demographic, it is it's a very quality blockbuster. But I think once you get into like the more indie market and the weirdest like little films that pose these questions, I think they pose them in a little bit more of like a punch like manner. Does that make sense?
It does. No, I understand what you're saying. I completely understand what you're saying. I disagree with the whole blockbuster analysis on it, because I think like I was really excited to see A24 kind of play around with that.
Yeah.
That format. They moved to IMAX. It's the first A24 IMAX film.
Did you see it in IMAX?
I did see it in IMAX.
I
saw it
didn't.
opening night IMAX. I'll say this, right? I just felt like I know it was being produced by A24, so I expected a somewhat of an artsy feel to it, right?
I think it has an artsy feel. It definitely has an artsy. It's exactly like I would define it as an artsy blockbuster, and that's exactly what I think they're going for.
Yeah, you see, this is the thing, right? Like I'm all for that mesh of those two things. I just don't feel like it really came together, at least aesthetically, from something.
I think that's when you and me like differ as people as well.
This is definitely a preferential.
Because
sure.
like I love the weird indie like small market stuff. You love like a bigger kind of.
No, I completely. I love the indie stuff as well. But
no,
I
know
feel
you do.
like
yeah.
I feel like Alex Garland's films, even though, like I said, I feel like they progressively got a bit worse one by one. Visually, they've upped their game, I think, like to a certain extent. And I think there are some really brilliant things in this film.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get, you know what, I actually want to talk about that stuff first, what I actually genuinely liked about this film. But just overall, I felt like, I mean, I saw an interview with Alex Garland recently, and he said in this interview that, he wanted to make something compelling, something exciting, something engaging, but also lead to some kind of conversation and have a thought process. And not all films do that, and not all films have to do that. And But that's what he wanted.
I love that it's not
Civil War.
answering any questions. Civil War.
No, but this is the thing. I'm just gonna say. So I walked away from this film feeling incredibly hollow and empty, and really not as affected as I would have hoped I would have been. And I feel like my reaction was so clearly the opposite of what he was trying to accomplish. But we'll get into my gripes.
No, I get what you mean. I think I felt about like 15% of what you felt. Like the same emotion, just a lot less. I think for me, I think I wasn't as impacted from it because of the general things that I consume, I'd say. But I should also say that just like I respect this film as a film and Alex Garland and A24 for making this, because like off podcast, like I am the biggest like indie cinema advocate that there is, and I think bringing an indie feel into blockbusters and it being successful financially and critically is literally what's going to change the industry. So I think this film is genuinely like a change. I've told you this a year ago, remember? I told you a year ago, Civil War is A24's biggest film. It's going to like spark a different level of industry
Yeah,
media.
we'll see if that happens.
I'm staying. Fuck,
I
I'm
hope
doing
so,
it.
because I mean, the last thing I want is for films to become stale. We're seeing the same stuff over
Yeah,
and over
yeah.
again. This is like you said, it's like a spark
Yeah.
of like the future of pushing the boundaries of blockbuster. What is a blockbuster forward? And on like that positive note, I do actually want to talk about what I actually liked about
Yes,
it.
sorry.
I did not hate this film. I think I was just very disappointed with the film. I think the film is fine.
Yeah.
I did not hate the film. I think there are some great aspects to it, which I want to get into with you. The first thing I kind of want to talk about is the choice to actually focus on like the journalism side of things here. And I feel like that choice gives the film quite a unique lens, like no pun intended, from both like a story perspective
Yeah.
and a visual and aesthetic perspective. And I'm going to quote our good friend Panwa on this one, because in his Letterboxd review, he actually
You're gonna quote Palma?
I'm going to quote him. I'm going to quote him. He said that for me, the most impressive thing about this film is that it somehow makes a camera more terrifying than a gun. And I couldn't agree more. I thought that the intercutting of these still images was, I'll admit, like it was pretty good. It was pretty genius. Like if I was gonna take away something from the film, that is one of the things I would take away. Like the experience of watching something like that was super fresh, super interesting. It built more into the sort of the realism of the whole thing.
Yeah.
So aesthetically, I enjoyed it. I'm still adjusting to the whole, is this sort of format something I could get used to seeing in blockbusters, or is this something I'm still, my mind is still adjusting to that.
I think my mindset on that would be like, I'm not sure if it's something we're meant to get used to. I think it's meant to be its own, like existing in its own little
I
unique
feel like when
narrative.
I said used to, I mean like. Not used to, but like it's like when you try something different for the first time, you're not sure if you like it or not. That's what I mean.
Completely. I think to me, films like that are really what is like pushing the industry forward. And it's films that do something so new that you're like, I am not sure if I like that because it's so bizarre. As we know, I like films like that.
Yeah, you do. But this is the thing, right? I agree with what you're saying, but I just feel like, let's take the IMAX thing, for example. I don't think this film needs to be viewed in IMAX.
I can't speak about that because I didn't see it on IMAX.
When I saw it on an IMAX screen, when I went to Leicester Square and I watched it on like the biggest format possible, the way that this film was supposedly intended, I don't feel like I felt the full effect of the aesthetics. I felt like if I was just to go to any sort of screening and check it out, it would have had the same aesthetic effect on me.
I saw Ex-Machina on IMAX like 3 weeks ago, and I thought similarly to what you thought. I thought that the visuals would hit me more, to be honest, with Ex-Machina. And what I've also seen a lot of people say about Civil War, it's not the image as much as it is the sound.
The sound was great.
So with Ex-Machina, the sound on IMAX was fucking unbelievable.
The sound is,
and I've heard a lot of people were like, this for Civil War, the sound design, every gunshot was meticulous. Everything was I
completely agree. The other sort of standout moment for me in this, when I say moment, this was the standout moment for me. You know what scene I'm going to talk about is the Jesse Plemons.
Yeah.
That for me, it felt like it belonged almost in a different film. The quality of that scene stands out
unbelievable. He's unbelievable.
So much against the rest of the film.
I agree.
That scene is exceptional.
I agree.
And I think it's because of Jesse Plemons.
I agree.
I think he has this amazing ability to play psychopaths.
Isn't it mad?
In the most sort of casual of demeanors. We've seen it in Breaking Bad.
Absolutely
We've seen it in
bizarre. It both makes and doesn't make sense that his career took off to this level, because it makes sense because he's amazing, right? Like he's proper next level actor. But it also, like, I remember watching Breaking Bad and I remember watching that character and I would have never thought. And like it's like the characters like that, like Todd in Breaking Bad. And the character he plays in this film, that kind of like asks the question of like, what does true evil look like? Is it like this maniacal thing, over the top thing that we see, you know, sort of glamorized in so over the top kind of ways, or is it something that is actually more hidden and more sort of casual? And like that to me is kind of the scary part about like you can go into a crowd of people, you don't know, you know. Well, I think that's something that Garland did really well with this film, is like, I don't know if this is a controversial opinion, but to me this film is a very genuinely realistic representation of what a civil war in America could look like. I'm not saying that would happen, but if it happened, this is not far-fetched, and there are many people like that in the States and everywhere in the world who would, I think, do a lot of the things that happen in this film. And I think I commend them for that. You know, there's the whole like California and Texas alliance
Yeah.
that was.
I mean, I'm not super
controversial,
educated on
but-
American politics, but I've heard that this is one of the
To
most
be honest,
unbelievable
I mean,
aspects of it.
it makes sense if you think about it, but it is a bit of a weird one because they would be the ones really fighting in a very black and white world. But there are some arguments that say it makes sense. But I think that was so powerful about the film, and I think we will never be able to have that experience because we're not American.
Yeah,
and I think to American
I do
people,
feel
this is like a very...
That I agree with.
And I read a brilliant comment somewhere that said, because I was surprised that Alex Garland would make this film because he's English. And then I read a brilliant comment that said, actually, having somebody who's not American make a film about an American Civil War is more powerful because you get this like distant representation, almost the way that Americans view wars in other countries.
Yeah.
It becomes... It desensitizes it, which a lot of people tend to do if it's not their war. And that's f***ed up, but I think the vibe of the atmosphere of the film is harrowing. I think that's its strongest suit, in my opinion.
I mean, I would say I don't feel like either of us are super political people.
Yeah.
I think both of us, at least when it comes to films, I think both of us are quite good at separating politics. At least on the first view.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Right?
Yeah.
Is that fair? Like, is that fair?
Yeah,
to say?
that's fair to say. Yeah.
So on that note, I don't have a problem with the fact that this film is apolitical. You know, I've seen a lot of people online bash Alex Garland for like basically saying it's like a cop out to not to be apolitical, to not channel his own political beliefs in the film. I don't have a problem with that because at the end of the day, it's his film. He can do or say what he wants to, and I don't think creatives should be penalized for not sharing their political opinions in the art. Do what you want. What I do have a problem with this film is, and probably my biggest gripe with Civil War, it doesn't really actually do or say anything at all. The main question I asked myself after seeing that film was, what was the point of the film? That was literally the first thing I thought of when the credits hit. I was like, what was the point? I think Alex Garland, in all his sort of attempts for this film to be apolitical, to not really choose a side or not to implement his own political beliefs, I think he's actually mistaken that for not really giving the film any sort of weight to it. I felt like I was just genuinely watching a bunch of scenes layered on top of each other, and the film really doesn't say anything at all aside from, war is bad, war is awful. But we already know this thing. We've already seen it 100 times in films before.
Can I give a rebuttal to that?
Yeah, go for it.
I made a video essay about this that kind of goes in.
It is I will link it down below.
It goes in depth of a lot of like what is the necessity and the weight of an artist's voice, basically. And that argument is very valid oftentimes, and a lot of people online are they have a very strong opinion about the fact that this film is apolitical. And I think an argument could be made, and it is my personal understanding of things, is that an unbiased perspective in this case, so a very objective representation of what war is, becomes his voice. So basically, simply presenting the reality of it is enough for us to understand the weight of the film. Because I think, war is bad is not a message that comes across in about 85% of war films. You know what? Like the two of the greatest war films of all time, Apocalypse Now and Full Metal Jacket.
You don't think Apocalypse Now is an anti-war film?
I think it is an anti-war film
that glamorizes war.
Yes, 100%.
But the reason for me why something like Apocalypse Now is so effective is because it glamorizes it has the high point, and then because it shows you that.
Yeah.
And then in the second half of the film, where
I agree with that,
it shows that the difference. It shows how a belief can be compromised.
Yeah.
And because there is that, you see both sides. You're able to feel the ending of the film, the message that it's trying to make, so much more clearly.
I agree and I understand, but I do think that is emotionally more powerful. But I think ultimately it comes to what kind of a piece do you want to create? Do you want to create something that is more, for a lack of a better word, story-driven and with that emotional weight guaranteed? Or do you want to make something, to me, genuinely, called a Civil War, in many ways feels like a photography exhibit?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't give you anything besides what is
just
there.
Happening.
And I think I agree with you, because my main only really criticism to the film is that I, like you, didn't quite feel that emotional punch. But I think I like that weirdly, that I didn't feel the emotional punch, because it feels very forensic. It feels very like, this is this thing I'm watching, and it was a weird experience, man. It felt like a different sort of film in a lot of ways. In its vibe, it just feels very, it feels like it actively and intentionally distances the viewer from the action, which most films tend to suck the viewer in. That's the whole point, right? It's to immerse you so you forget about the rest of your life. But so that's, there's a part of me that I really want to rewatch it, because I really want to like reflect on that feeling more. But to me, that, I agree with what you're saying about that emotional punch and that weight, and that you do end up leaving a little bit like, oh, was that it? And a part of it is because the ending is a little anticlimactic. I will say that. But to me, that was what kind of made it special.
I completely appreciate the fact that you look at it and it is almost like this forensic experiment, like you say. And like I said, I do have to really stress that my gripe with this film isn't the fact that, you know, it's not choosing a side or anything like this. I just think that the writing here is thin. I don't feel like the backstory is fleshed out enough. We just learn that, you know,
I do agree that the characters are a little bit.
It just, yeah, but like even like the history behind it. Why are we in this situation in the first place? Besides a few pieces of dialogue.
Well, why do you need to know that?
Because when stuff is happening,
yeah,
I understand why we're here in the first place. I don't want. I'm not looking for a whole backstory. I'm not looking for any of that stuff.
You just want to be aware of like.
I need a little more to work with. I don't want to be spoon fed.
Yeah.
I hate being spoon fed.
Yeah.
I just think that the film, I think it's failing as a story because it doesn't. Alex Garland wants us to fill in the blanks as an audience. He wants us to put those pieces together. But you got to give us something a little. You know
what? I don't know that he does. I think his whole kind of idea is that scene. I can't really quote it, but it's when it's Carl Glusman and it's like they're shooting us and we're trying to shoot them. So I think in his mind, it does not fucking matter what side it is. It's just about the fact that people are fighting. So I think if he gave us more, then that apolitical nature disappears.
But what does that mean, though? People are fighting. Yeah, but that's my question.
It's about the like weight and horrific nature of war. Like there isn't really a winning side, is there? It's just death and horror.
So, but do you feel like that's just the film, though? It's an experiment in portraying death and horror. It's an experiment in portraying a hypothetical civil war. Do you feel like? But that's my question. That's why I'm frustrated, because I'm like, okay, great. That's great. I can appreciate it for that. But is that genuinely all the ambition behind the film? Is that genuinely what you wanted to do? He said that he wanted to, encourage people to have a conversation about the film after watching the film.
I actually think that's worked. We are literally like, think about the intense level of this conversation.
Yeah, but we're having a conversation about why we're not having a conversation. But
that's a conversation on its own.
Yeah, but then we're going in a circle. I don't know. I just feel like, for example, right? For example, I'll give you an example. Like the Jesse Plemons scene. Yeah. Fantastic. Love it. I just said, brilliant scene. The best scene in the film, hands down.
Yeah.
The iconic line from that scene, what kind of an American are you? Would be parodied at the start.
Yeah.
That line doesn't make sense. What kind of an American are you? Because we don't have any sort of idea of any of the prior conflict between these.
I think that line is more like, because he ends up killing somebody who is not, like, in his eyes, American. So does that make sense what I'm saying? So I think that line is more like...
But he's asking, what kind of an American are you? Because he's asking what side of the war.
I don't think that's what he's asking. I think he's asking, like, are you... Or maybe it's...
No, of course that's what he's asking. Because they're all technically Americans apart from the other two sort of foreigners. We're not sure if they're American or we're not sure if they're foreign.
I think to him... Yes, I take it back. That is part of why he's asking it. But he's also asking it because he's that type of, like... let's say
subdued
intense American who considers anybody who is like first generation American immigrant to not be American.
Yeah.
That's why he kills the person who is not truly American. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but he asks the Americans what kind of American. He knows that they're American. He just doesn't know what
there's layers to the question.
Anyways, what kind of an American are you? For me, I get frustrated when I think so much of the film is actually really good. Like, I think there are such brilliant elements. I think Alex Garland is a talented director. But for me, one of the things I actually kind of want to talk about is this idea. And I know, like I said, I'm going to come for your boy here. But like, I feel like the more I've been watching his film, the more I get this sense that he is a little bit of a one-trick pony. And what I mean by that is,
Not my boy. Not my boy. Alex, I love you.
What I mean by
grab a coffee.
If you look at every single one of his works, like, Ex-Machina, to Annihilation, to Men, to Civil War. Civil War, for me, I was hoping was going to be this kind of sort of, this is Alex Garland's film. This is where he's going to expand. This is where he's going to explore really complex ideas. This is where he's going to look at different kinds of people, because all of his other works have mainly focused on one or a small group of people in one location or a very few locations. And what I think he's good at is creating these intimate set. I haven't seen Devs, but you can. I don't know much about the show. But what he's good at doing is creating these intimate settings, and you really getting into the sort of the mindsets of these few characters and exploring interesting conceptual ideas. And then he did Men, and also that is one or two characters in a small environment. But then that goes off the rail. But Civil War is a film that isn't trying to do that, but yet it still falls under that same sort of, those same barriers. It follows these group of people, which is, I'm all for like one of the most up psychopathic road trips of all time. Like, that's great. Give me that. But at the same time, I never really, like, the characters I think are underwritten.
I do agree with
and
that.
like, for me, I don't really know how to explain this other than I felt like Civil, and this is the problem I had with the filmmaking, the world building behind it. It's just that I felt like this wasn't an America that really felt lived in. Because what it is, it follows these groups of characters. It's almost like they go to these different checkpoints and just meet these one-off characters. There's no sense that this film is really has a history behind it, for me at least. It doesn't have that prior
I agree with that.
kind of sense that has happened and we are in an incredibly dire state. It feels like a bit like these characters are trying to make it to the White House.
I agree,
And we're hitting these different checkpoints and we're meeting different kinds of Americans on the way, but not really much more than
I agree.
It just has this very
think
kind of contained feel to it. That's
agree.
what I meant by I said I don't really know how well this transfers to a large
I think
blockbuster.
In terms of his kind of what you said about like that, those intimate stories, I don't think that makes him one trick pony. I think that's just style.
Yeah, no, and I'm
and
sure
I think
that
that's his style. And however, I do agree with you on the like checkpoint argument, but that is very much also, I've noticed, that's a personal preference that maybe you and I share, because I thought one film that I didn't particularly love as much as other people did was 1917.
Right.
And that's because to me 1917 felt like a video game where you're just hitting different locations, whereas different things. I think this had a tiny feel to that, but I am just not generally the biggest fan of like a road trip film. I think the narrative to me doesn't really hit, because it feels like it's very location centric and not very character centric. And this, I mean, I felt it to an extent, but it didn't bother me too much. But a film like 1917, for example, that felt very like the location drives the narrative, which I didn't enjoy. So I get what you're saying with Civil War, though.
I mean, like I said, I feel like this film has good elements to it. I did mention about like the focus on the main characters being, you know, journalists, the war journalists, press, who basically go and sort of risk their lives to capture this content. I thought that was an interesting conversation to have, but it doesn't really go anywhere, because there's a moment where like Kaylee Spaney and Kirsten Dunst have in the car where Kirsten Dunst is telling, like, Kaylee Spaney's like freaking out, and Kirsten Dunst tells her like, you know, we shoot the photos so other people ask the questions. Yeah. That I think is like an interesting topic, like the ethics behind war journalism, and like these people going out there, and like I watched it with Clara, and we didn't really buy into the whole idea of like these journalists are literally there with the soldiers just shooting and then like coming back out and shooting. It just seems a bit unbelievable, but I'm sure that kind of happens to a certain extent.
That's like, she says that, but she's haunted by everything she's done.
No, of course. But my point is, it's like Kaylee Spaney. We don't really know anything about her. She's essentially this little girl who comes into and like,
I don't agree with that, because I think it is her film actually, and it's all about how this character comes as this little girl like wanting to get into the industry, and how that
it's a metaphor.
and how that like changes her along the way, obviously, and
Yeah, of
in the
course.
end, like, so I think to her, like, we're not really supposed to know much about her because it is about like the starting point of her new life.
No, but my point is there are still attempts at that. There are still attempts like, oh, she sort of had Kirsten Dunst as, she's one of the most famous war photographers in that world. She looked up to her massively. She's a big reason why she wants to do these kind of things, and that student mentor kind of aspect. And at the end of the film, when she dies, like, it's like the student becomes the master, kind of this whole narrative of sort of passing the torch. But I felt like an interesting aspect of the film was exploring like the ethics behind war journalism, the idea that of remaining neutral, right? And like, of course, nowadays it's very rare that you see, journalists being neutral. You always see them for more often than not have a narrative with their work. When they shoot photos, they are shooting facts, but they're also, giving their input in it. And it's almost like this sort of lost art where like journalists sort of they used to be more neutral. And this film explores that kind of, I thought like an interesting question was like the whole idea behind sort of Kirsten Dunst is a war photographer who is neutral and shoots all these horrific violent moments by remaining neutral.
And she feels impacted by it.
Yeah, but it's more like by remaining neutral, are you not neutral because you aren't actually actively doing anything in these horrific situations? You're surrounded by violence.
So you're making a decision. It's
exactly.
like is the film apolitical because it's apolitical?
Yeah. In a way, yeah. Like, I think that's kind of interesting, but it really like that's what I'm saying.
I
They're
get
like,
you.
I'm really trying to like bring something in.
All I'm gonna say is that if we wanted to, we could probably chat about Civil War for 2 more hours. And how often does that happen about a film?
I think, I mean, you make a good point. I'll give you that.
And whether it's for good things or bad things, it doesn't matter. But how often is it that there is so much juice to talk about?
You are right. I think it is, regardless of whether or not the film, like, it's about the film itself or it's what the film is.
Yeah. There is a lot. Like, there is a lot.
Sure. I agree with that. I think we could shake in the middle of that.
Right.
Fine, fair enough. Should we look at some Letterboxd reactions?
Let's look at some Letterboxd reactions.
Okay. So, first up, we have Tyler, who has given the film 4.5 out of 5 stars and says, I genuinely want to know what the president did that made Texas and California join forces.
There we go.
That's the first one. That's the first one. We're gonna go straight.
Is that like from most liked on Letterboxd?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Next up, we have Sophie Holsinger, and she's given the film 2 stars and says,
Sophie.
You're telling me the very best place for the president of the United States was to hide under the Oval Office desk?
But that was awesome. I love that. Like, they found him in a like pathetic under his desk, not in a bunker, just like pathetic guy.
Yeah. Keris says, has given the film 4 stars and says, real hero was Kaylee Spaney for managing to do all of that in skinny jeans. R.I.P. skinny jeans.
R.I.P. skinny jeans.
Next up, The Film Drunk. I'm very conflicted on this movie because it's well made with some great moments, but I fear that this is the kind of movie that falls apart in your hand the longer you hold on to it. But holy moly, Jesse Plemons.
I feel like that's you. That's you. That's your review. Yeah.
Matt Lynch gives the film 1 star and says, remorselessly stupid, utterly empty. All right, Matt. Lucy, she hasn't actually given the film a rating. She says, cinematically, this is stunning, solid acting, tons of suspense, striking choices in framing and editing, and yet, despite it all, completely lacks a point of view and rings hollow. Sure, it's good, but not good enough to rest solely on a war is bad ? Sensibility.
I think a lot of these reviews are very similar to what you felt.
Yeah.
And what I felt as well. But I think the difference is that I'm happy to look. I'm happy to. No. I'm happy to look at it a bit more of like, whilst that didn't bring me enjoyment, I still really appreciate it, and it's
fair enough.
And I respect it. And to me, it's like almost better that it's that way because it's something new and different than not.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's completely fine. It's completely fair enough.
Yeah.
Connor Eats Pants has given the film 2.5 stars and says, somehow this managed to have less political depth than Captain America Civil War.
There's a lot of low ratings.
Yeah. Dude, I've seen such mixed reactions to this.
Yeah.
Such mixed. I've on my Letterboxd network, more people haven't actually enjoyed the film than not. Yeah.
I'd say that's interesting because to me, most people I've spoken to are kind of where I'm at. Like, yeah, it's like a 7 out of 10, super solid. I haven't heard anybody completely hate it, nor have I heard anybody say it's like the best film he's made or a masterpiece.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. We
Somewhere-
run in different circles.
Yeah. Next up, we have Kylo, who's given the film 3.5 out of 5 stars. Says photojournalists may be worse than influencers. Cinema Collect, given the film 4.5 out of 5 stars, and says, I haven't been this stressed out since Uncut Gems. That's a pretty good compliment.
It is.
Gems is stressful.
It is, bro.
Sam Bennett is giving the film 4 stars and says, this is what America would look like 2 days after being told they can't argue with each other over Twitter. Zooey says, relaxing movie. Well, I'm glad you found some relaxation.
Yeah.
Zooey.
I watched f***ing Climax the other day and just took a beer, just chilled out, had some popcorn, relaxed.
Isn't that like one of your favorite films, though?
It is. No, not objectively, but I hold a very strong emotional connection to it.
To Climax?
Yeah.
Interesting. Joe Cole has given the film 4 stars and says, as I was leaving the theater, I told Alex Garland, don't stop making movies. He smiled and said, thanks, bro. I appreciate that. We are bros. And on that note, guys, that
I
concludes
told
the
fucking
Letterboxd
Alex Garland the same thing the other day.
I don't want Alex Garland because I've heard this is going to
No,
be
but
his
it's
last
not
run.
true apparently.
I want him
it's
to.
not.
I want him to go back to Sci-Fi because it's just like that's what I want him. Cause that's what I think he's really good at. I'm all for him trying different things.
I think he's got a space like epic in him.
A space epic.
Yeah, like he's got like a sci-fi space film, something like big.
See, I disagree, but we will get because
because it's not because he couldn't combine the intimate with the blockbuster.
Yeah,
bro.
exactly. Exactly that. So to conclude this episode,
games,
guys,
right?
it's our favorite point of the episode.
You're gonna embarrass me. I'm gonna embarrass myself in front of all these goddamn people.
So we have 2 games. Mickey,
Okay.
are you ready?
I don't know these, so you're gonna surprise.
So the first game we are gonna play. So Civil War
Yeah.
is based in what country?
America.
America. Yeah.
America. Yeah.
Right. So the first game, Mickey,
Yeah.
is how many films or television shows with the word America
Okay.
can you name in 30 seconds?
Oh God.
You ready?
Yeah.
Ready? Okay, and your time starts now.
Coming to America. American Beauty. American Sniper. American Pie 1. American Pie 2. American Pie Reunion. American Honey. America. Holy f***, I'm blanking now. Oh God. American Story. I feel like that's a film.
Almost. It's a TV show. American something.
The Americans.
It's not American.
Joe, you're distracting me in the f***ing background. American. What the f*** is that? What is that? What's what?
American Psycho.
American Psycho. F*** me. Oh yeah. Joe is going in the background like, and then like this for some reason. I'm like, what the f*** is that, bro? I did so badly, didn't I? I started off really
How many
strong.
that was 8.
What obvious ones did I miss? Yeah,
Okay,
but 4 of them were American Pie 1, 2, 3, and f*** you.
So I'll give you a nice little breakdown. So American Beauty.
Yeah, I did American Beauty.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh. American Sniper.
I did that.
Once Upon a Time in America.
Oh, f*** me, yeah.
American Hustle.
Oh.
American Graffiti.
Yeah.
American Psycho, which you said, or Joe said.
Yeah.
American Fiction. American History X. American Gangster.
So many that I didn't even
American
think of.
Horror Story. You said American Story. American Horror Story.
Yeah.
Captain America, the First Avenger.
Oh, f***
Captain
me.
America, the Winter Soldier. Captain America, Civil War.
Oh, yeah.
American Ultra.
Oh, yeah, that's the Jesse Eisenberg thing.
American Honey, which you said. American Pie 1, 2, and 3. American Pie, the Reunion.
Reunion, I said that.
The American. American Assassin.
Oh, yeah.
An American Werewolf in London. The American President. Coming to America and Coming to America 2. Which
Oh, I didn't f***ing say Coming to America too.
Team America. And finally, a bit of an unconventional one. Borat. Cultural learnings of America for make great benefit glorious nation of
That was
Kazakhstan.
funny. That was fun though.
It was
Okay.
fun. It was
I
good.
didn't do horribly. Ish. I should have thought. I should have gone with American Fiction and American Hustle and American Psycho.
It's tough when you're on the spot.
It is so tough when you're on the spot.
Yeah.
I always do it when I watch reels like that, and I'm always like, oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Is it one like that again?
No.
Okay. Mhm.
So our second and final game of this episode, Mickey, is, as we know, we've just been talking about Civil War.
Yeah.
And one of the casting aspects of this film
Yeah.
is Jesse Plemons and Kirsten Dunst both star in the same film.
Yes.
They are a couple in real life.
Yes.
So I want to know, Mickey.
Yes.
So have these Hollywood couples
Been in a film
starred
together.
in the same film
Okay.
as each other?
Okay.
Yes or no?
Okay.
And extra points if you can guess or you can tell me
The film.
what film or
Okay.
films.
I feel like I'm
Okay.
gonna do better at this than the other one.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm
there's
quite
you
good
haven't
at-
got the time.
I'm quite good at actors, so I feel like
okay,
I'm gonna do better
So
at
first
this
up, we've got an incredibly easy one. I'm going to give you.
one. I'm gonna it up.
So first up, we have Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie.
Yes, Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Okay, so you get 2 points for that.
Okay.
Second, we have
Yeah.
Emily Blunt
Yeah.
and John Krasinski.
Does it have to be a film that's been out?
Yeah.
You know what? No, I'm not gonna play by your rules. They have, and it's If.
What's If?
The film that's about to come out. Yeah, they're both voicing two of the little robots.
So you is that your final answer?
Before. Okay, no. You know what? I am. Have they been in a film before now? Oh yes, me. Quiet Place. Yeah. What?
I should have let
Oh
you
my
on
God!
that.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yes,
Why
The
did I
Quiet
go
Place.
If first? Yeah. Quiet
Quiet
Place.
Place, part 1 and part 2.
Yeah.
We have this one is a bit unconventional. Rooney Mara
Yeah.
and Joaquin Phoenix. Have they starred in a film together?
I'm gonna go with the no.
They've actually starred in 2 films together.
Have they?
Yes, they have. They've starred in Her, Spike Jonze's film. So Rooney Mara is the ex-girlfriend.
Oh my God! Yeah.
And they've also starred in a film called Mary Magdalene, which is a biblical
I haven't seen that though.
where Joaquin Phoenix plays Jesus.
Okay.
So
She
yes, they
is in
have.
her. Yeah.
So next up we have Blake Lively
And Ryan Reynolds. Have they been in a film together? It's easier to run through the. Joe is making faces on the side as if I'm supposed to know this off the top of my head. Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds
I gotta press you for time.
are off the top of my head. Yes.
Yeah, they have. What film did they meet on? What film did they meet on the set of?
Oh, Green Lantern.
Yeah.
That's right.
Oh, forget
that's
about
right.
that, Jam.
It's you know what, when you're f***ing in this scene, it's not that easy.
It's tricky.
Because I go, you know what, I go Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds, and as I'm thinking, the only thing my brain is thinking about is that shark movie that Blake Lively did.
The Shallows.
And I can't think of anything else. I'm just like, shark movie. And then I'm like, Ryan Reynolds, I'm like, Deadpool. No, she hasn't been in Deadpool. Yeah, okay.
Next up we have Ryan Gosling
Okay.
and Eva Mendes.
If they have, it's some thing from way back.
Yes or no? Tell me.
I'm going to go with a no.
You'd be wrong.
Really?
They
What
starred.
is it something way back?
You're gonna kick yourself in a second. This is one of my all-time favorites. What film did they meet on the set of?
I don't know, but if you tell me Crazy Stupid Love.
Place Beyond the Pines.
Oh,
Place Beyond the Pines, dude.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Derek's here in France.
Oh, yeah, that's not that. That's like what? Like 6-7 years ago, even.
Yeah.
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 Oh.
Yeah. So next up we have Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith.
Oh, God.
One of
They
Hollywood's last.
have to have been in a film together.
Is that your answer? Don't look at Joe. Don't look at Joe. Joe doesn't know as well.
I'm gonna say yes, but I don't know which one.
They have been in a film together. They both starred in the film Ali, which is a biopic about Muhammad Ali.
Yes. Who is she?
She played a character called Sonji.
Okay.
And she also played an extra in Men in Black 3.
Okay. Fair. Okay.
So yes, they have.
Okay.
So next up, we have Judd Apatow and Leslie Mann.
The thing is, Judd Apatow doesn't act that much. He directs stuff that she's in a lot. But I feel like it's a trick question. It might be something from his acting past. But I'm actually going to go with I don't know, because she is in all his films. So, no, I'm going to go with a yes, based on the idea that I think she's in all his films, and I think he cameoed in one of his films.
The answer is actually no. He hasn't actually... Yeah. But he has directed her, like you said.
He's directed her a few times. As well.
Yes. So next up, we're coming to our final two. We have Channing Tatum
Yeah.
and Zoe Kravitz.
Are they
Yeah. You didn't know
Channing
this?
Tatum and Zoe Kravitz
Yeah.
are not together.
Correct me if I'm wrong,
No,
guys, but
no,
this is
no,
common
no.
knowledge.
Zoe Kravitz's ex-husband is Carl Glusman. Like a year ago, they
Channing
separated.
Tatum and Zoe Kravitz, to the best
Are
of my
they?
knowledge, have been dating for a considerable amount of time now. Yes, they have. Joe, can you confirm this?
2021.
2021.
Although I am.
No, wait. That's genuinely possible because Zoe Kravitz broke up with Carl Glusman, who is in Civil
the
War,
film,
like
yeah.
a year ago. They were married.
I can check that for you.
Well, it doesn't matter.
Joe is
they were a couple.
you've seen Joe Ronan, right? Joe is like, Jamie, pull that up.
Yeah, so they broke up and
Oh, they broke up in 2021. Okay.
broke up and got together in 2021. So it's a pretty tight.
Pretty tight. She moved on quick.
Damn.
Damn.
Okay. Sorry. Press for time. Channing Tatum, Zoe Kravitz. I'm gonna go with the no.
That is correct. They have not started
Okay.
together. And the final one we are going to ask is Javier Bardem and Penelope Cruz.
I feel like it has to be a yes, but I'm not sure off the top of my head on the film. I'm gonna go with a yes.
You are correct. They have starred in a multitude of films together. The most well-known is Vicky Cristina Barcelona.
Oh yes. Oh, I love Vicky Cristina Barcelona.
And also, fun fact, guys, they've also both starred in a Pirates of the Caribbean film. Penelope Cruz was in the 4th, and
He's
Javier
in
Bardem is
the
in
5th, right? Yeah,
not
yeah.
the two best
Okay,
ones. But
okay,
yeah, there we
okay,
go.
okay.
And
I feel like I did pretty
was
well
alright,
on
that
that,
was
right?
alright,
I
that
feel
was
like that
alright.
was pretty
Yeah.
solid.
yeah, you redeemed yourself after the American round.
Okay, it's not. It wasn't that bad. I got eight. You know.
On that note, I think we are going to leave it at that. Thank you so much, Mickey, for coming and talking.
Absolute
Civil
pleasure.
War. I'm so happy that there wasn't a civil war in this room between myself and you.
Yes.
But look how amazing this is. We
It
both have
is.
differing opinions.
We're both
We can
like
come together in the
discussing.
middle.
We're like
And-
Texas and California.
Yeah. What the no, so on that note, guys, thanks for watching, listening, and we will catch you very soon in the next episode of the Popcorn Podcast.
Peace.